Okay, everybody, today I'm going to show you how I built a sink for my office kitchen. It basically cost me about 200 bucks to do. It wasn't crazy difficult, and the parts are easily accessible from either Amazon or your local hardware store. So we'll get into it. So here's my kitchen space. And, when I first got this office space, this was just one big empty hallway, no cabinets, no power, and definitely not running water, nothing there. And I wanted to make the best use of it. So when I decided to make it a kitchen, the first thing that I had to do, of course, was bring in power. And so if you look down here, you can see I ran power from an extension cord going around the wall here and then going back and back into this space. And so behind there, I used a power strip to then power everything in the space itself. So on the left side, you got a dining area. This came out pretty nice. I got some pictures. The theme of the space is old Los Angeles, so I had some 1930s shots and an old menu here, and even got to do the old, Coca-Cola napkin dispenser. Just something to make it look cool. And on this side, I was able to fit in a fridge. It's got a nice half wall here, so it hides it from the other side. And so I was able to put a nice size fridge in here, some decor as well, some old bottles to go with the theme. Here you got some cabinets. I got these cabinets from Home Depot. I think they're the ones that are basically designed to go in garages. So I got a top one there, a bottom one here, and then you got this thing. Now the cool thing about this is they all would go with this standard sort of 24, 48-inch size. So you've got the 24-inch cabinets that fit, a 48-inch tabletop, which gives me room to put trash cans underneath. And then I was able to put a toaster here and a hot plate and even a TV. This all runs off that power strip. And so it just makes a very comfortable space, to work with. But one of the things, the other thing here too is you got coffee maker, right? You got to have that. But one of the most important things is I needed a sink, because what you don't want is you're up here doing things and you have to go wash things out. You got to go downstairs to the bathroom, wash it out in the bathroom sink and all of that stuff. It's just really, really inconvenient. So like I said, there is no running water. And so I was able to sort of create this sink here. And I'm going to show you the basics of how I did it. And the first thing is, this is a sink that I bought from IKEA. And it's a basic bathroom sink. It wasn't very expensive. They probably don't have this exact model anymore. I bought this a few years ago. But they do have some like it, where they're basically that same 24-inch size. And it's got a door, it's got some legs underneath, and they may or may not come with their own top. You might have to buy a top, and you may also have to buy your own dispenser. I bought a dispenser, which is just a simple sprayer, because that's all I really needed. I didn't really need anything else spectacular for what I need to do, just to be able to rinse things out here and there. So now let's get down and I'll show you how I put this thing together. So open the cabinets here. I store my first aid kit here, so let's move that out of the way. Now underneath, what you basically see here are two containers. This is a container that contains fresh water. This one contains what they call is the dirty water. It's called gray water, but it's called dirty water. So what happens is fresh water goes up here, goes through this pump, which I'll tell you about in a minute, and it comes into the sink, and then of course the dirty water comes out here. So you notice one is larger than the other, and the reason you do that is because people will inadvertently or occasionally just dump like soda cans or other liquids in here that can take up some of the capacity in this. So if they were even, then what would happen is once you ran out of water here, this one would be overflowing. So you always want to have the gray water tank with more capacity than the fresh water. So the other thing that I'll notice is this is a 2.5 gallon tank. This is a gallon tank. So people ask, well, why don't you just use bigger capacity tanks? I don't want to have to be lugging 5 gallons of water up and down the stairs to change this thing out. Another thing I do with the gray water tank is every time that I dump it out and rinse it out, put it back in, I add a little bleach at the bottom with a little bit of water. That just stops the tank from being smelly, while it's filling up. Now this is a self-priming pump I found on Amazon. Cost about 50 bucks. And you'll see here we've got these lines and things and connectors that run in. These are all available at Home Depot. I just went to my local Home Depot and found everything that I needed there. So this pump does not come with a power supply. It is a 12-volt pump, and you have to get your own supply, which you can find on Amazon. Now, I'll tell you one of the issues that I had. I had a power supply that was laying around that I think I used to use for a computer or something, and I connected it and it worked. So I was like, great. But what I found is every now and then, I go to turn it on and it would just start priming it, pump and stop, pump and stop, pump and stop. And I couldn't figure out why until one day I looked at the average output on that power supply. It wasn't enough to supply the pump itself. And so check the specs on your pump, make sure the amperage that it requires, that you get a power supply that puts out that amount of amperage. And once I did that, it worked perfectly. So now, let me show you how this thing works. So basically it pulls fresh water up here into the pump, and then it goes out, and then it goes up into the sink. Now the cool thing is, it is activated by pressure. So when I turn this on, just press this down, that's when the pump starts to work. And then of course, when you let it go, the pump stops. So the cool thing about that is you don't have to have any kind of extra controls, turn something on to get the water to work. It just works like a regular sink would work. It just makes a little more noise. You'll notice also here, I added something here. So this is the output and it goes up to the sink, but I also added this return that goes back into the fresh water tank. And this is more just of a convenience thing for me, because what happens is, let's say this thing runs out of water. Now you've got air in the line, right? And so you go to replace it and you put fresh water in here. So the first thing it's got to do is suck up water to get all the air out, which means that it's going to be spitting air and water out everywhere up here. So now what this allows me to do is turn this on, and so what it'll do now is run the water up here and back into the tank here and just spits all the air out. So once that's done, now when I go to use this one, it's just running water like it's supposed to. It's not spitting water and air everywhere. So it's just a convenience thing for me. So now whenever you build something like this, you always have to have some safety features in mind. Of course, the first safety feature, like I said, is having a larger gray water tank than you have for fresh water. Some of the other things I did, you'll notice here at the bottom, that is a sensor that senses water leakage, which is connected to my sort of UMA security system. There's a sensor there. And so that basically will tell you if there's any kind of leakage. Now, these are spill proof, so they don't leak. I've had these for several years. They work fine. You notice here I put them on blocks just to have them a little bit higher, have them off the ground as well. Another safety feature I have is, since this runs off of power, I want to be able to just turn the power off completely to the whole system when I go home. And so what I do is I use the little power plugs by Wemo, and that allows me to have the power turn on and off, and you can see that power plug there. And so, there is no way this pump can run if I'm not here. So those are the safety features that I built in just to make this thing pretty foolproof. Like I said, it's a great solution for when you want to wash a dish out, save the time of having to run up and downstairs, wash your hands really quick, do simple things like that. Doesn't take up a lot of space, and it wasn't very expensive. So hopefully you get something out of this, and thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next DIY video.